Okay, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. So what I'm going to do here is give you your podcast owner's manual. So if you reach over to your glove box in your car, there should be like some kind of booklet that comes with your car that explains like how to set the radio stations and how to check your oil and where your spare tire is and how to change a tire and all the things you need to make your car go or stop or be a car. It's your owner's manual and it comes with your car and you should have one, and it might be buried underneath all the other stuff in your glove box in your car. But it has all the details to use your car the way it was meant to be used. How about a podcast owner's manual that helps you with your podcast? So this is meant to be a series of episodes in a row, and we are going to kind of unpack some of the basics, and I'm going to do these in bite-sized pieces so that as things change, as things update, I can jump back in here and refresh the content and reload it back up to stay as current as possible with all the great changes that happen in podcasting. So there's a little side note for you. Did you know that you can go back and you can change and update your podcast episode from your back catalog, older episodes that have been out into the world for days, weeks, years? You can go back and touch them, update them, clean them up, fix them, tweak them, change the titles. You can do all that stuff and not impact your podcast to your listeners and to your future listeners. You can do that. You can go in and tweak these as many times as you want. Your listeners that have already heard this might not get the benefit of the update, but anybody new to your podcast who finds you on episode 100 and then says, you know what, I'm going to go back to episode 1 and I'm going to go back to the beginning and get everything. That'll happen sometimes. That's how I listen to podcasts. So you might as well update the information and keep it up to date. Because I listen back to some guru podcasts and I go back to their day ones and listen through, and I find like a 15-minute podcast that is actually 35 minutes because they forgot to cut the silence off at the end. Like, or spelling mistakes or old information that's no longer relevant. And I get it. We're all busy. We might not have time to go back and change things, but you can do this. You could go back and update your past episodes and bring them up to current standards and current information. You could do that. So yeah, that's why the idea behind this is that I want to be able to go back and do a section without having to rework the entire podcast as a whole. So I'm breaking these down. These are our owner's manual information for your podcast. Okay, so we're going to start off with just the very basics. And I know we've already kind of talked about this already, but it's good to refresh it. And again, this might be your first episode, so welcome to the podcast. We're going to talk about the very first thing you need to do as you start your podcast, and that is simply to nail down your topic. What are you going to be talking about? What is your podcast about? It's something very important that you need to decide at the very beginning. We're going to talk about that right here on the How to Podcast series. We need to nail down our topic. I've heard some podcasters, some new podcasters get onto like a group page or something where there's other podcasters and they say, well, I've got my microphone, I've got all my gear, I've got everything ready to go. What should I talk about? And that feels a little bit backwards. I think as a new podcaster, the one thing I would really highly suggest is that you figure out what your topic is. Can you talk about this topic at length? Is this something that you are passionate about, something you have knowledge about? If you're an author and you wrote a book and you can speak to that topic, you can have guests on to talk about the topic, you could get up on stage and talk to a crowd about your topic. If you're an expert in your field, if you have a business, if you have a program, course, you're a doctor, a lawyer, police officer, you've served in the military, you can speak to an audience that identifies with your topic. That's what we need to do right from the beginning, is nail down our topic. Choosing a topic for your content can be really challenging, but I have 5 things that you should consider to help you decide your topic. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Number 1, think about your passions and your interests. Think about your passions and your interests. What are you knowledgeable about or interested in learning about? There you go. The student can be the teacher. Remember that. You don't have to know everything. Be curious. I have an author podcast, and I'm not even an author. I get authors on, and I'm more of an audience member than a cohort author-to-author conversation. And it gives me a different dynamic in that podcast, because when an author mentions a word or a term or something, I'll stop them and say, can you explain that? Because I have no idea what you just said. And my audience loves it, because that's the same question they would ask. The hand would go up and say, I don't know what you just said about publishing. Can you explain that? So think about what you are interested in. And again, you don't have to be the expert. You can be a student that's curious. A curious student can be a podcast host, and that could be you. Chances are, if you're passionate about a subject, you will be more motivated to create content about it. Number 2, consider your target audience. Now, I've mentioned this earlier in the podcast on a different episode, but I'm not a big fan of the word avatar. Avatar to me feels like a movie character for a James Cameron movie. That's a fictitious character, not real, not tangible, not somebody you can actually pat on the shoulder and shake their hand. It's some figment of your imagination. Consider your target audience. I would say your listener, your audience, the person, not the avatar, the person that you're going to be talking to. Imagine if you could talk to them one-on-one. Who are they? Now, the one thing that helps me to decide my audience and who I'm talking to is, for the most part, I am my audience. I'm going to talk to my thoughts, to my interests, and then let the audience come and join in on the conversation. So my avatar, my listener, my audience is me. Out of my curiosity for the topic, that's what I consider to be my audience. It's me. Pretty selfish, right? Yeah, pretty selfish, but very effective. Consider your target audience. Who do you want to reach with your content? What topics would be of interest to them and to me? Doing so and building that is one easy way to nail down your topic. Okay, so next on nailing down your topic, look at what's popular. What are people talking about or showing interest in this area that you're thinking about talking about? What is popular? If you don't know, you can always do something simple as finding a Facebook group around the thing that you're thinking about talking about. Enter the Facebook group and participate in the community. Just show up and listen to the questions, listen to the answers. Participate, offer your wisdom, offer your opinion. If you're on something like a social audio app, like at the time of this recording, Clubhouse, where you can go into a room and listen to people talk about the subject that you're speaking about or that you're thinking about having as a podcast topic. Just look to try to find what is popular. How about number 4? Do some research. Look at other content in your industry or your topic and see what topics are being covered. You don't want to copy what others are doing, but you can get ideas and see what gaps might be in that market. So from my perspective, I have the How to Podcast series, which you are listening to. Thank you, by the way. When I listen to some other podcasts about podcasting, I hear I hear different presentations and different ways of presenting the material. We may be talking about the exact same thing, but the audience differs because of the host. And I've mentioned this before, I've sent people to other places for content, and they come back and say, thanks, Dave, but I'd rather hear it from you. They identify with me as a host. They connect with me for some reason, which I'm appreciative of, but they would rather get the information from me. And I appreciate that. So do some research. Lastly, test out a few ideas. If you're still not sure, try creating some content on a few different topics and see how it's received. So I use Anchor and Buzzsprout at the moment for my podcasts. Both of them, Anchor's free altogether right now. And Buzzsprout has a free option where you can create a podcast. It goes live for a while and then it just disappears. So you can practice and play. Test out some ideas. See what happens. That's something you can do. That's something that we can all do. And by practicing and honing our craft, honing our topic, understanding what we're talking about, we can find out, hey, is this really what I want to talk about at length for a long time? Test out a few ideas. So we need to, let's go over it again. Think about our passions and our interests. Consider our target audience. Look at what's popular. Do some research and test out a few ideas. That is how you nail down your topic. And it's all this information's in the show notes. You can see the list. You can always come to our website, howtopodcast.ca, not .com, howtopodcast.ca. It's a Canadian website. Ultimately, the best topic for your content will depend on your interest, your audience, and your goals. It's important to choose a topic that you are knowledgeable about and can create meaningful content for your audience. That's your responsibility. And the best podcasts are created by curious students, masterful teachers, experts in their fields, and people who love to connect others and build community. That is you. If you have a message, I just talked to somebody today, and the combined background of what they bring to this world and their voice and their thoughts and how they see the world is uniquely theirs. And no one can duplicate what they can do because there's only one of them. There's only one of me and there's only one of you. No one else can do what you can do. Again, it might be the exact same topic. It might be the exact same 5 points. But no one can be you except for you. So if you're wondering, can I do this? Yes, you can. With help, with support, with encouragement, and with simple answers to sometimes what you feel is the hardest questions. You can do this. howtopodcast.ca. I'd love to see you over there. We're going to have more for your podcast owner's manual. You ready? Got another episode coming right up. Here you go. Thanks, guys.